Hi everyone. Hi Deepa. Hello everyone. Thank you for joining us. Can you give me a wave and just let me know who's here? Because as I said last time, it's a bit weird this is because you don't always have that same interaction. Hi Deepa. Thank you. Sharon, hi. Thank you for being here. Hi Garual twins. Upchi, hi. Vaiguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaiguru Ji Ki Fateh. Oh, Baji, hi. Vaiguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaiguru Ji Ki Fateh. Lorna, how am you, Bab? That's the Brummy speak coming out. Vaiguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaiguru Ji Ki Fateh to everyone who's joining. Hello, thank you for being here. Amardeep, Lynn, hi. Alicia, hi. Thank you for joining us from Seattle. Oh, that's so kind of you. Hello, that's my husband. Hello, Harinda. Does anyone else find this really weird when their husband joins in as well? Sharon, hi, welcome. Thank you so much. So I know this is impromptu. I did say that. I did say if I do these lives, I'm not going to be able to plan them too far ahead and share. Chin, hi, Grishma, hi, Harps. Sahib is watching, said my husband. Yeah, by the way, Sahib's not in bed today. He normally goes to sleep at 8 o'clock, but he had a really late nap. So if you hear him, that's he's just there's a one-man party going on downstairs with just him. Hello everyone, thank you for joining in. So I just said I'm sorry, this is always going to be really, really impromptu because of the kids and because of other commitments. And so I probably will do what I've done today is just share on the day, and whoever can join. And then once these lives are recorded, they're uploaded for 24 hours anyway. And then what I'm going to do is download them and save them and send them as a link with my weekly newsletter. So if you don't subscribe to that, do subscribe to that, because I share the link with all the subscribers. There's watching as well. Great. So I was so humbled and overwhelmed with the reaction to the last live, to some of the questions and the feedback and the messages that I got, that I really wanted to come on and just further enhance and share information that might be able to help, particularly other people who are perhaps struggling with the journey to their authentic self. Because one of the things that I'm very conscious of is that whilst I shared my story, and looking back, it is beautiful, and I waxed lyrical about the fact that I have no regrets. There's nothing I miss about my previous life, that this is the path that I was born to be on. One of the things I think I forgot was a little bit like when you have children, you forget the pain. And I did forget almost the turmoil and the conflict that I went through until I had some messages. And one particular message that came through that reminded me, actually, it was quite brutal at one point. It was really raw. And I want to be really honest about that, because one of the things that perhaps I didn't have at the time was the support, or I felt a sense of isolation, that I couldn't openly talk about the conflict that I was feeling, the turmoil that I was feeling, and the challenges, because I didn't feel that perhaps other people would really understand what it felt like in terms of what I was going through. So for me, it was really clear my authentic self and my authentic path was that I wanted to step into Sikhi. I wanted to step into my faith, and I wanted to live a life of a Gursikh. But as I shared, my upbringing and my family life and my circle was so far removed from that, it was something that wasn't a natural fit for me. So it was a journey that I had to undertake by myself in terms of learning and exploring and expanding. But it was also a journey that had turmoil. It did have distress. It was brutal at times. And I just want to share a little bit more perhaps about that. Because if anyone is feeling that at the moment, if you feel that you are not being authentic to yourself, if you are not following your heart's calling, your soul's purpose and why you are here, you are going to feel turmoil, you're going to feel upset, you're going to feel frustrated, you're going to feel that something is missing, that you're not living a fulfilling life, and you might not immediately be able to put your finger on why that is happening. But there are things that looking back now, I did and I didn't do, which I really think would have helped me and perhaps help other people. And this is true for whatever you're going through. So for me, it was really, really clear. It was about Sikhi. It was about this path of divinity. It was about wanting to change my appearance so I fit in with how I wanted to look. And I'm going to talk about that. But for you, it might be something different. It might be, maybe you're stuck in a relationship or a marriage that is no longer serving you. Maybe you're stuck in a job that is no longer serving you. Maybe you know that there's something else that you want to do with your talents, with your time, with your blessings, but you feel like you've been pigeonholed into a certain role and certain expectations. So maybe that's true for you. But so what I'm going to share will apply to all of that. But my experience is true to me and maybe true for many other people, particularly people if you're going through a spiritual awakening and a spiritual realization. So the first thing I wanted to share was that really there are two types of conflict and challenges that come up when you start to recognize that your life isn't true to what you want it to be. So when you start to feel like, actually, this is what I want for my life, and this is the vision I have for it, but this is where I am. And there's this gap in between, and I feel like I'm not where I want to be. And there's two sources of conflict. The first conflict is the inner conflict that comes up, and it's the inner turmoil that comes up. And that comes up because there's a disconnect between your heart and your soul and your mind and your social pressures that you're in. And so that causes lots of feelings to come up. It causes a lot of anguish. It causes a lot of upset. It causes a lot of emotions. And sometimes we don't even know why we're feeling this way. We just feel a sense of not being true to ourselves. That my life isn't true to how I want it to be. This life isn't an expression of what I want to do. So that's the inner conflict that happens. The outer conflict is the conflict that comes from other people, and it's usually our nearest and dearest. So when you are stepping out of your comfort zone and you're stepping outside of the comfort zone of people closest to you, there is going to be pushback. There's going to be resistance. There's going to be friction to that. And that will show itself up in so many different ways. Sometimes that friction is going to be very vocal. Sometimes it's going to be kind of undercover, but you can sense it and feel it. So you can sense and feel that you're being talked about, that you're being undermined, that you're being judged, but no one's actually going to come out and say anything to you. So I went through all of that. I had those feelings internally going on, and I felt this external pressure as well in terms of judgment and what other people were thinking of me. So I just want to share some stuff that helped me and what you could do if you're feeling like that. And if you're not feeling like this, if you have someone in your life that you know is going through this, how you can help them too. Suki, hi, I saw that you joined. Hello to everyone. Sorry, I'm going to miss a few of these. So what brought it home for me was that, and I posted this, I went to, as I was going through my journey, so this was a journey of 4 years, and as I was learning more about my faith and I was incorporating more of that element in my faith, I could feel a huge internal shift. I could feel things moving. I could feel that where I perhaps belonged before, I no longer felt a sense of belonging. And I shared this before. I said, because I didn't want to talk about those things, because I didn't want to do those things, I didn't feel like I belonged there. But in terms of my appearance, to everyone else, I looked the same. So what was going on was very much an internal battle, and it was a battle of my soul and my heart and my ego and the social pressures, and everything was going on. It was just a real minefield in terms of what was going on for me. But what really brought it home was when I shared this photo of a family wedding that I was going to. And I'd had my hair and makeup done, and by that point I had stopped cutting my hair, stopped doing my eyebrows, but I was still still into fashion. I still the dip. So okay, so this will really connect. I think you'll really connect with this then. I was still into fashion. I was still into dressing it up, but not because it brought me joy, but because that was what was expected of me, and that was that was my life. I hadn't known anything different. That's what I had known. All I had known was, like I shared before, all I had known was this very typical Punjabi life of going out, partying, having get-togethers, and dressing up. And I remember this wedding, and I went to get my hair and makeup done, and I had just bought this sari. I literally had just bought this sari from Mongers in Southall. I remember this so vividly, and it was like this halter neck top sari, and this really, I had my hair and makeup done, and even as I was getting my hair and makeup done, something inside me was just dying. I was even sitting in that chair having my hair and makeup done. I felt such a disconnect to what was going. I felt like I was having an out-of-body experience. But that's what I had been doing up until this point. So I didn't know any better. And the makeup artist was lovely. I'd used her before. She took some photos. And I look back at the photos now and I can see that my eyes are just dead. And this is the thing. So that's how I was feeling. And what I had shared before was that when you step on the path of faith, of divinity, you will get signs. The universe will send you signs. Our Guru Sahib will send you signs. And it's up to you whether you choose to embrace them or you ignore them. And at that time, what had happened was that I had my mother-in-law's car. And so everyone else had gone to the party. My parents were there. Harinder had taken me, only had there. Harinder had taken there. I'd gone to get my hair and makeup done, got my sari on, got into my mother-in-law's car. She'd gone away for summer, so she'd given me her car for that summer. And I sat in the car, put my belt on, already was feeling a bit discombobulated. And so the photos you see, by the way, that I put up is when I have a seatbelt on, is that photo I took in a car. And I started to drive from Slough it was one of the terminal, Heathrow hotels. And I drove to West London, and I put the CD came on automatically, it came on. And the CD was Slok Mahalla Nova, and it was by Harjinder Singh Shri Nagarwale. And I just had a moment of, that was when my guru was speaking to me through Slok Mahalla Nova, and because I was already feeling this way, and then I heard these words, and it just, everything just compounded. So the turmoil that I was feeling, the conflict that I was feeling, I felt like I was betraying my guru, and I just felt like I was so torn. What I wanted to do in that moment was just wipe up all my fake makeup, take the sari off, go home, and just climb into bed. So for those of you that don't know, Slok Mahalla Nova is a really, really, really powerful shabad. It's the words of our ninth guru, of Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, and they recited these words to us when they were going to be martyred. And if you're a Sikh and if you have been to an Akhand Path Sahib and a Bhog for the Akhand Path Sahib, you will have heard Slok Mahalla Nova, because they're the end slok that always get recited. But they also are known to take you into a state of virag. So they are known to take you, because in Slok Mahalla Nova, Guru Sahib is talking about life. What is this life? What is it come to? What do you stand for? And their words hit me, they hit me so hard. So this was the state of turmoil that I was in, that I just had, spent 300 quid on this sari, 200 quid on having my hair and makeup done, was going to this wedding, had to hold back these tears and going through this process. So I remember pulling up, and actually I thought this was such an internal struggle that very few people knew. Very few people I felt I could speak to in this way, because unless you get it, unless you've walked on this path, and that's why so many of you are saying, Benji, I get it, I feel like this, I feel you, I know what that feels like, because you can't talk to other people about it, because they look at you like you've almost grown a second head. And so that was the state that I was in, and it was so interesting, because this was a few years ago now, and when that picture, that moment is ingrained in my mind, in my heart. But I thought I had done a really good job of just holding it together. You know, it was my cousin's wedding, and this was my internal battle. It's not about me turning up to this joyous event and being all... And so someone who was at that event and messaged me just a couple of days ago, and she said, I knew it. I knew that you felt so uncomfortable. She said everyone was coming up to you saying how beautiful you looked, how everything was immaculate, and yet I could sense this discomfort from you. And I just thought, wow, you realise that's how I was feeling. That's the vibe I was giving. That's the level of struggle and rawness and just how I was feeling in terms of the strength of my emotions at the time. So if you feel like that, if you feel like I'm doing this but I'm not being true to who I am, that's how I felt. But looking back, that moment was so pivotal, so important for me. And if you are going through that now, I'm going to tell you that despite how raw it feels, despite how difficult it feels, it's a moment of crossing over. It's a moment of clarity. It's a moment that will give you absolute certainty that this is what I want, because I don't want to be in this state of confusion, of conflict, of being, the duality of how I feel and how I want to look. So that was probably one of my biggest struggles in terms of how the strength of emotion that I felt. And for that reason, I actually didn't particularly know Slok Mahalla Nova before then. I'd heard of it, I'd heard the Bart being recited at an Akhand Bart. I loved the tune of it. It has a very specific tune when it's recited, but I didn't know the meaning. I didn't know it was the circumstances within which Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji had recited that, how they had shared that with us. So what I did after that was, because I had to sit with those emotions. So that's another thing. If you've got these emotions and they're coming up, they're telling you something. Our emotions are our body's way of telling us how you feel. They're our body's way of saying, this is right, this is how you feel, this is perhaps not true to you. So what I then did was I went on YouTube and I found that particular version, and it's recited by Harjinder Singh Ji, and they have got the transcription as well. So I read the words and I could follow along. And when I read the words, I got it. Like the penny just, for me, just dropped. I understood why the synchronicities that happened in that moment, that was to have my mother-in-law's car, that it was meant to be that CD, that particular emotion. It was meant to be at that time of, it wasn't just... It was a time when I was all dolled up, all dressed up, ready to go to this party, and then this happened. But all of that played in perfectly to how it was meant to be, to give me the clarity that, Rubinder, what you're doing isn't true to you. What you want to do and what you want to be is something else. So you need to unpack some of this to step closer to who you want to be, to kind of put to bed some of these really big emotions that I was feeling. Because the only way you're going to get over that conflict and the pain and the suffering and the challenges and the I felt like, how I felt? I felt like, when you take a kapra and you nachor it, in Punjabi, you wring it out. That's how I felt. I just felt so wrung out. So that doesn't go away until you listen to what that message is telling you, until you listen to what that emotion is telling you. And what that emotion was telling me is that you are not being true to yourself. You're not being true to the divine. You're not being true to your Guru Sahib. And this is causing you turmoil. So is it worth it? Is this worth it? So these are some of the things that might be coming up for some of you as well. So that was some of the internal struggles that I went through. And then in terms of the external, then there were a couple of things that were going on. So I've shared before that, you know, I don't come from a family that practices Sikhi. So, and there wasn't a huge love or respect or regard or reverence for Sikhi. And so for me, there was inevitably going to be a reaction to wanting to embrace Sikhi, to wanting to live a certain lifestyle that was very different to the lifestyle that I was brought up in or the lifestyle of my immediate group of friends and family. And sometimes that does come from people who are very, very close to you. Hanji, I feel emotional listening to Baba Farid's slok. Yes, I've been listening to them quite recently as well. They take you into a state of virag as well. And that's not a bad thing. I think sometimes, because I remember my mother-in-law I've shared before has a love for Sikhi and has a lot of knowledge, and she could see that I was going through this turmoil, and she said to me, she said, Rupinder, stop listening to Slok Mahalla Nova, because that's inciting this feeling. Start listening to Sukhmani Saab. But what I was saying to her was, Mum, I like that feeling, because it's bringing me closer to my guru. It's bringing me closer to my truth. And it's stripping back and it's pulling back the layers and bringing me back closer to what I want to do. That's the way Gurbani works. Gurbani is so powerful that even if you don't understand it, I didn't understand it. I didn't know what Slok Mahalla Nova was, but it had such a dramatic impact on me. So that's the first thing, is just maybe start listening to it and listening more to Gurbani to bring more of that into your life. But as I was starting to embrace Sikhi, and as it became a little bit more obvious to my immediate circle and some of my friends and family, it did cause a sense of disconnect. Because what happens is that when you step outside of your comfort zone and the comfort zone of other people, they don't know how to react to you. And even if that comfort zone is one of partying, looking great, having your hair and makeup done, going out, if that's the circle, if that's the comfort zone, and you're not going to go deeper, you're not going to necessarily talk about things of substance. If suddenly one of you, like me, if you start talking about Sikhi, or you want to talk about the meaning of life, the purpose, what do we think about the next world, what are our experiences, of course that's going to cause a reaction to the people that are around you. And not everyone is going to be supportive of the changes that you're making to your life. Some of that's going to be because they don't understand it. And then if they don't understand it, it's our responsibility to almost bring them in and help them understand what's going on. So I had this happen with quite a few people, but the one that was really poignant for me was, I remember when I was exploring and listening and going to programs and going to divans, I remember talking to Daya. So Daya is now 8. She had just turned 5 when we were blessed with Amrit. So really, she was 3 when I started to come into Sikhi. So 3 and 4. And I remember once saying to her, "Oh, Mummy is going to start wearing a patka. Mummy's going to take Amrit and she's going to start wearing a patka." And she started crying. And she was just like, "No, Mummy, I don't want you to do that. I don't want you to look different. I don't want that." And her having such a reaction, inevitably for me as her mum, you want to protect your children. You want them to be happy. You want them to be safe. You want them to feel nurtured. It's going to have a reaction on me and what I decide to do. But what I was able to realise was that we live in Surrey. We're the only Sikh family here. They are school. We're the only Sikh family. I'm the only Sikh woman. I think there's another one actually, but they're not Amritdari. So it was always going to be very obvious that her parents were going to stand out. So Harinder already stood out. But I think she had a picture in her mind on how mummies looked and how she wanted her mum to look. So that was a little bit like, oh, okay, how am I going to deal with this? So and you might have this, there might be people in your life that if you're making changes to how you look, so if you're growing your hair, if you're, if you're going to the Gurdwara more, if you are exploring different interests more, there might be a little bit of friction with some of your relationships as well. So what I did with her was I started to take her to Sikhi camps. I started to really take her to particularly lots of camps where there were a lot of women. So there were particular camp, and there still are now, there's lots of cause camps. So she could see other Sikh women who wore the star, who wore a patka, who wore children, girls who were wearing them. So that became her norm. So she could see that, she could see an appreciation for that. She could understand that. She could have like her sangat, the children of these wonderful women talking to her, telling her about how beautiful Sikhi was, telling her incredible stories about the amazing women that we have in our panth. So that's what happened. So that's how she came on board. She started to understand and see that and look at that. To the point, actually, what happened then was when we had decided that we were going to take Amrit, one of my biggest things that held me back from an appearance point of view was the fact that I was going to have to cover my hair. And that felt so alien to me that it took me a while to get my head around it. And actually, I can see she's here. Harminder Benji, Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Because I live in this quaint English village in Surrey, and the thought of going to do, school pickups and drop-offs and starting to wear a patka, living in this village, honestly, it used to give me palpitations, and I knew I wanted to do it. I knew that was going to be something that was going to be requested of me, and I wanted to do it because that was the disconnect for me. I wanted to step into this appearance of a Sikh. So Harminder, who's on here now, I remember messaging her and saying, Benji, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I know I need to do this, and we want to take Amrit, and this is the thing that's holding me back. And the best advice that she gave me was, she said, start slowly, start wearing your patka just around your home. So even if it's for just 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, you have to get used to your appearance. You have to get used to the changes, because if there is a conflict with how you are feeling and how you are looking, you need to make peace with that. And that's what I did. So I started to wear a patka just around my house. This was before I took Amrit, just around my house. And I would, if a delivery man came, I would quickly take it off. Or if someone came, I would quickly take it off, because it just felt so strange to me, but I knew that this is what I had to do. And then slowly I started to do okay, today I'm going to wear it and I'm just going to go to the bank, or I'm just going to go to the post office, or I'm just going to pop into Sainsbury's. And I remember I used to sit in the car and feel like everyone's eyes were on me, or when I got to the shops, I'd be like, oh my God, everyone's looking at me. And they weren't. Honestly, no one looks at other people. No one is invested in other people as much as we are invested in ourselves. But that was a big part of me coming to acceptance of how I looked and how different my appearance was going to be, and getting my mindset into that place of acceptance of, actually, this is the look I want to embrace, and this is how I'm going to be, and making sure that conflict that was in my heart was removed. The only way you can do that is by having a sangat in place. And I shared this before. So you need like-minded people to support you on this journey, people who understand the conflict, people who understand what it feels like to want something, to have a desire for something, to want to live your life in a certain way, and you feel that you are so far from living your truth. And the only way to do that is to have people who can support you, who have been on that journey themselves, who understand the value of that journey, who understand how painful it is and how stuck you feel when you're in no man's land, when you don't feel you belong to your old crowd, but you don't feel you fit into the new crowd that you want to fit into. You're stuck and you feel so isolated, you feel so alone. All of these feelings are coming up and you don't know who to talk to, you don't know who to share them with. So it's about nurturing that and bringing those people into your life. And we live in such incredible times that social media has made that absolutely possible. So I've had quite a few messages on this and, reassured people that it's normal to feel like this. This is the journey of life. If you're going to make a radical change to your being, of course there's going to be conflict. Of course there's going to be tears and of course there's going to be even a grief for your old life and the life that you're going to leave behind and the life that you want to step into. All of that is part of this process. But no one told me this. I had to live this and then come out and then look back and think, wow, that's how brutal it felt at some point. I was the questioning of, am I doing the right thing? Am I meant to be doing this? The questioning of who am I to want something different, want a different life when everyone else around me is so happy in this bubble. Why do I want to be different? And I was just about to say this. And the way you liken it is to the caterpillar transforming into the butterfly, and Pradeep has just said the same. If you look, honestly, if you Google pictures of a chrysalis, so what a caterpillar has to go through before it turns into a butterfly, it is gooey, it is bloody, it is raw, it is painful. You would not be able to look at that chrysalis and think something so beautiful is about to break through from that. We go through exactly the same process. We have that process of the dark night of the soul, of the disconnection, of the battle between your heart and your ego, between the battle between how you want to live your life and the social pressures and conformity around us. And having to justify your life choices, having to justify what your heart is telling you to be true to people around you. And that is so difficult if they don't get it. And that's the other thing we have to make peace with. I had to make peace with the fact that there were going to be people that were very, very close to me that would not understand, that did not have either the wanting to understand or the reasoning or the capability to understand the journey that I was going on. They just didn't want to know. It was beyond their capability of understanding that and wanting to know that. So their reaction to me was one of judgment, of who the hell does she think she is? What, she thinks she's, on the God path now, but she was drinking, but she used to do this and she used to do that. Yeah. You can do all of that and still want to have a different life. So if you have people that in your life that are going through something similar, my biggest advice would be to exercise compassion to them, to trust me when I tell you that they are going through turmoil enough without piling on additional turmoil, without piling on additional questioning. And if you are going through that, what you need to seek out is the compassion and the love of Sangat, of like-minded people who make you feel like you're at home, who make you feel wanted and belonged, and who make you feel that this is part of the journey and that all of this is very, very normal. So that was some of the stuff that came up for me. I just want to see if there's any questions that I've missed. By the way, if you have got any questions, particularly about this, do ask away. I'd be really happy to answer them. And I did make a note of some questions that I had come through separately as well. Do these people still keep in touch with you? So some of them, so actually it was really interesting what happened was, and I shared this in the last live, that what happens is when you change your vibrational frequency, so when you change what you want from life, how you feel about life, when your values change, when your lifestyle changes, inevitably it's going to change some of the relationships around you. So people who don't want that, who aren't on that same vibrational path, they will fall out of that frequency, they'll fall out of your path. But other people will step up. And what happened with me actually was that there were people within my immediate circle who did feel the same and who stepped up. So they saw me stepping up and they were like, no, we want to do this as well. And so they did. And what's been really telling actually, my family, is that there was a group of us, probably about 20 of us, who, in terms of like cousins and partners and wives and husbands, and there's been a really clear divide between those of us, there's probably about 10 of us, who look like very similar to me or have very similar values to my values, who have a deep love and respect and reverence for Guru Sahib, who have a love for Sikhi, we're all at different stages, but we all have that love and we want to make that the cornerstone and the foundation of our life. So there's probably 10 of us who are that way. And there's the other half who are still into doing the stuff that I was into doing, who are still, partying and doing all of that stuff. And there's no judgment there because I don't want to do that. So that's not just because I don't want to do it doesn't mean other people should stop doing it. But likewise, it's just an understanding that we're all going to, it's inevitable that relationships are going to fall out and that there's going to be some that you take along with you for the next chapter and some that fizzle out. I'm going to DM you a question. I don't know how I'm going to be able to access that, Dips, but okay. Yes, yeah, I said that in the last one, that the ardas is also so powerful. I shared that I had no sangat, so I did an ardas for sangat. I did an ardas to Guru Gobind Singh Ji and said, you need to send me people who are going to bring me closer to you, and you need to take away people who are going to take me away from you. And that was and to witness that happen. So I don't know if any of you have had that example where you have witnessed something like that happen and how it transpires. It's one thing doing an ardas, and it's another thing when it comes true and then you have to live it and experience it. Is very, very different. But it's the only way to stay on a path that is true to you. And this could be anything. So I'm sharing a lot of my thing about, it's about faith and spirituality and Sikhi, but yours could be, so different. It could be something else, but you know that you're not living a life that is true to you. So some of the things that have worked for me were surround yourself with the right people. And if you don't have them, ask for them. I begged, asked, pleaded for Sangat. I went to Sikhi camps. I went to cause camps and retreats. If I saw someone on like Basics of Sikhi or one of the other channels, if I saw a Bibi that was doing a talk, so I saw a woman doing a talk about her journey, I would reach out to her. I would, I made it because I didn't have that, so I wanted that, and that's how it started to come into fruition. So there's one thing about being in that conflict and feeling those challenges and feeling the rawness of that pain. And you can sit in that, and it's important to feel that because that will motivate you. But then you have to take action. You have to reach out to people. You have to, you've got to follow your heart's calling and your soul's purpose and make those connections and take the effort, because very few people, no one's going to come knocking on your door and saying, do you want to be mates? I think you have to make the effort to make that happen. And what the other thing, what you need to do then is be vulnerable and be really open about how you're feeling. We live in a world where we feel we have to present ourselves as the perfect end goal of perfection, perfect home life, perfect kids, perfect marriage, look perfect, be perfect. And what happens is that's not the truth. That is not how people are really living their lives. People are struggling. I host these Ignite workshops, right? I've done, 8 of them. I've probably, just through the workshops and Elevate and the coaching that I've done, I come across hundreds of women. Women are struggling with the same things. All of us are. We are all struggling with relationship issues, with boundaries, with self-respect, with how people are treating us. But unless we talk about these things, how do we know that we're not alone? So we have to talk. So if you're struggling, if you know that, you're struggling with a certain element of your life that you feel is stopping you from living an authentic life, then speak to someone who has already stepped on that path and say, this is what I'm struggling with. What do you suggest? Just as I said that, my fear was, how am I going to cover my hair? How am I going to cover my head? Oh my God, I'm going to have to wear a batka. I'm going to have to ultimately wear the star. How am I going to feel about that? But I spoke to a sister about it. I spoke to someone and said, how do I do this? What do I do? I'm feeling so much turmoil about this. I want this, but I'm scared. And she gave me really practical, considered advice. And that's what happens when you open up, when you can start to be open and honest and let your guard down and start to let people in. So, sorry, did I miss a question? Okay. So dips. What if you want... Okay, good question. What if you want to do an ardas but can't read Gurbani, so it's hard to learn? Okay. Someone else actually DM'd me this question. So first of all, learn how to do a formal ardas. So we all know what the formal ardas is. That's in the Gurdwara. There's apps. You can download it and learn it. So... And actually learn the meaning of the ardas. When you really break down the meaning of the ardas and what's happening when you do the formal ardas, you are calling upon. So I talked about this before, about we have forces, seen and unseen, that are supporting us. So the unseen forces are the forces that are recited in our ardas, because in the ardas we call upon our 10 living gurus, our eternal guru, the Khalsa Panth, our Jar Sahibzade, our Panj Pyare. We call upon the Jali Mukte. We call upon Sikhs that have made Qurbaniya for our Panth. We are calling upon them, calling those reserves to support us. So do learn it. And then, but having said that, I couldn't do an ardas. I still can't read Gurmukhi. I do my part in Romanized English. And what I do is play it. So I listen to it to make sure my pronunciation is correct. An ardas, in the true sense, is a dialogue and a conversation with the Creator. It's a conversation with our Kalpurak Vaiguru, with our Guru Sahib. And you do that from your heart. You drop it into your heart. And whatever you believe in, if you don't believe in a God, if you don't believe in, the Gurus that I believe in, if you believe in a universal energy of love, if you believe in Mother Nature, if you believe, whatever you believe in is about having a conversation. And you can do that anytime, any point, anywhere. You can have moments where you just drop into yourself and have that conversation of speaking really lovingly to our Creator about what you want to do. So you can do that in any language. And sometimes I do it, I speak to whichever Guru Sahib that I feel connected to in a particular moment. I will speak to them in English. One of the other things I would suggest as well is actually, especially for, I think most of the are women, is that we sometimes forget that we have incredible women in our Panth that we can call upon. So you can call upon Mata Sahib Gorji. You can call upon Mata Mai Pago. You can call, depending on however you feel. I feel a huge connection with Mata Gujarji. And I'm going to share that because we talked about, I want to talk about infertility in the next live. So I'm going to share about the connection I feel with Mataji and the ardas I did to her when we were struggling to conceive Sahib. So you can call upon any of these women as our mothers to guide us. You can to support us on this journey and to bear witness to our journey, and the way it's described to me, which I think is so beautiful, is that if we think of our Guruji as our father, so if you think about your relationship with your biological father, you will go to your dad for certain things. But there are certain things that we only turn to our mum for, and certain things of intimacy that we only turn to our mum for. So that's the relationship we have with our spiritual mothers and our spiritual guides as well. We turn to them at those points to say, as my mother, I'm turning to you. Can you support me? So that would really help. The dips. Oh my God, this is amazing. I've never known this. I'm mind blown. Okay, good. And I saw Sharon said something about the Ignite group as well. So you can build up your community of supporters, build up your group of people that you can turn to, that can support you, that can keep patting you on the back and saying, you've got this, you're not alone, keep going, and can reinforce that wherever you are in the journey is the right place to be. The other thing get Sangat, get a group of like-minded people, be vulnerable, and understand that vulnerability is a power, is a courage, is strength of asking for help, of asking for guidance, of telling people I'm stuck. And I wish I had done more of that. I wasn't able to communicate enough because I couldn't make sense. I just couldn't make sense of my emotions. I felt so emotional, and I just couldn't make sense of them to share with people. Oh my God, I'm feeling like this. Why don't I want to go to parties anymore? I used to be a Bhangra head. Why don't I want to listen to Bhangra music anymore? Why don't I want to go to concerts anymore? What is happening to me? And I wish I had the courage in that moment to reach out more. It would have just helped me so much to have someone say, Rupinder, this is normal. You're going through a realization and an awakening. Stick with it. Stick with the course of it. You're not alone. You're going to come out of this and it's all going to be worth it. And then the other thing is get comfortable with feeling uncomfortable. So you're going to have to tell yourself that I am feeling uncomfortable because this is unknown to me. This is new to me. That I don't know what's happening. We don't always understand what is happening to us at a spiritual level, but we know that there's something going on. And understand that not all the answers will come up when you want them to come up, but in time, all of it, when the dust settles, and I was saying this in the last live, is only when I look back and realise the only reason I have Sikhi is because I got married to someone who was from a Sikhi family. So in some Pichle Karam of mine must have meant that this was the path for me in this lifetime. But it's only when I look back that I could make sense of that. So I hope some of that has helped. And the messages that I just kept getting was, I feel so torn. I feel so alone. I feel like no one understands. I don't want to do this. I want to be, this is what I want, but how do I do that? When my parents aren't into Sikhi, so my parents aren't into Sikhi. I remember I begged my mum. So my parents go to India for 2 months every year. So my mum does all our suit shopping and stuff there. And I begged my mum. I said to Mum, please, can you just buy me a white suit? I just want a really simple white suit that I want to wear. And she refused to buy it for me because there's this whole thing, a superstition about, you don't give white suits to your daughter, and because it's the colour of widows and grief and all of this stuff. So that's what I had to. I was logging heads against that, and in the end, I just went to Southall, bought myself a white suit because that's what I wanted. I was like, I really want a white suit, and slowly they started to adapt. And what happens is that you can start to shape them and their realization. And there were some people, and my parents, some of my friends, some of my family were so intrigued by the transformation and what was going on that they started asking me questions. They started saying to me, oh, can we come to Sikhi camp with you? And I don't know if any of the Seek to Inspire Sevadars are on here, but I'm actually really well known because every year there's a Seek to Inspire camp, is the one I go to in May. And every year I put a call out. I always put it on all social media and say, I am going to this camp. It was a big part of my journey into Sikhi. If you feel that you want to come, but you're scared, you have no one to go with, you're intimidated, come with me, share a dorm with me, and come and experience what it's like. And I'm really well known because I kind of send them a list of all these people that I'm going to bring with me and we're going to share, because I know what it feels like when you're stuck in that place and you want to go to these things, but you don't have anyone to go with, or you want to talk about these things and you don't have anyone that you feel that you can share that conversation with and that journey with. So have I missed any questions that, yes, Jara Sahibzadeh, oh my goodness, that movie, Hanji, it was so, I didn't even know, when did Jara Sahibzadeh came out? It came out 5 years ago, Benji? Harmy, when did it come out? I didn't even know. I shared this in my last live. I didn't know about what happened with Jara Sahibzadeh. I didn't know my history. And when I watched that, I was in such a state of turmoil. How could I not know that this is what happened, and the strength and that kind of was another huge avalanche of feelings of wanting to explore and understand and really learn more about Sikhi, and really connected me with a different group of people. I'm coming with you next time. Harps, come! I've been telling you to come. I'm coming too. Yes, please come. 2015. Yes, so 5 years. Oh, 2014, Suki said 2015. So, yeah, that was a big part of my journey too, as well. So I hope that's helped. I hope it's perhaps made you feel a bit lighter, if that's how you feel about any of your journey or anything that you're feeling that you're going through, that you're not alone, that we have all walked this, those of us who have walked this path and come into Sikhi much later in their life, and especially from families that didn't have this faith background, you're not walking alone. We all understand what that feels like and how lonely and isolating it can feel. So I just really wanted to, that's the main message that I wanted to get out there in terms of how you can support yourself. And if there's anything that you do particularly want support with, feel free to message me. And the other thing I was going to share was that the support always changes, and what you're looking for always changes. So when I was, at the beginning, I needed a very particular kind of support and sangat. And then probably in the middle, I needed something else. And then then you get to a point where, like now, I'm really grounded and rooted in my faith and my sense of being and my authenticity. And I don't have to make apologies for who I am. I don't have to, pretend to be something else. I am me. This is who I am. This is how I choose to live my life. This is what's important to me. And if people don't understand that, come and ask me and speak to me, and I will help you understand that. But if you choose not to want to be involved in that, then I can't influence that, and that's not for me to do so. So then you just have to make peace with the fact that not everyone is going to embrace your journey. Not everyone is going to embrace your path. Not everyone is going to want you to change your life. Because when you make changes to your life, I tell you what happens. It forces people to look at their life, and it forces them to look at some of the decisions they're making, some of the values that they have, some of the priorities that they have. And if they're not happy with what's coming up for them, rather than do the work for themselves, so rather than say, oh, I'm not happy with this, or let me go and fix it, what they will do is project that on you. So that's what happened to me. Rather than people coming to me and, family or friends speaking to me, they would say, oh, so she stopped drinking now, so she must think she's better than us. Oh, so she goes to the Gurdwara. Oh, so now she does this, and now she does that. I didn't feel like that. They felt like that. And because they felt like that, they were projecting that on me. Oh, she must think she's better than us. How can I think I'm better than you when I've been doing exactly what you've been doing? It's not about feeling better or feeling higher or lower. We're all in it together. Yes, Rosie, personal progress can be so disturbing to other people, and that it can be your nearest and dearest. It can be your parents, it can be your siblings, it can be your children, it can be your cousins. If people can't understand why you would want to make a change to your life, why would you want to broaden your horizons, why would you want to do something differently, they can't understand that, then they project that. Then they project the resentment, the bitterness, the and they make their own stories up, stories that aren't even true about what that must mean for them. So please accept, you're just going to have to accept that that happens, and that's going to come as part of this process. But the ones that are willing to step with you, to hold your hand, are going to be there for you. And even if that's not the case, wherever there's a void, so for a while I had a void. I didn't have Sangat. I didn't have what I was yearning for and longing for. But when there's a gap, so what happens is old people fall away, old relationships fall away, you have a gap. And in that gap, it's quite scary, because that's the bit where people get, they start worrying, oh my God, I'm going to have no friends. Oh my God, I've got no one, da da da. That's the moment you hold firm, because in that gap, the Creator has listened to what you've asked for, and they are going to deliver that perfect thing for you. I promise you, this is what happens. But if you go back to your old way of life, if you go back to that old crowd, there's no space for anyone else to come into your life. So don't do that. Don't settle for that. If you want more for your life, if you know that you want to embrace a different path, if you want to embrace different people, then that's going to happen. Those gaps and voids in your life will be created, and they will be filled. Yes, in their own, that's a really good point, Rap. Yeah, in their own securities. We definitely all go through that. When I remember one of the Sikhi camps that I went to, probably the first or second one, I thought that I thought some of the women that had been blessed with Amrit and who were, had the star on, I thought they were looking down on me. And I thought, oh God, they're a bit snooty. A bit snooty. I'm just giggling because some of them are probably on here. They're a bit snooty and they're looking down on me. And, it wasn't about them. It wasn't about them. It was about me. And I didn't feel enough. I didn't feel good enough. I didn't feel good enough for Sikhi. I didn't feel good enough to step. I didn't have the confidence or the faith or the conviction or the courage to step into my authentic self. It wasn't about them. It was about me. And soon as I realised that, I could understand then about why other people were reacting to me stepping onto this path. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, same, Rap. So I hope that has helped. Feel free to ask any other questions, DM me. Thank you for joining me today. I'm going to do 2 more of these, I think. The next one's going to be about infertility. That was something that was requested. And then I'm going to do a Q&A. So if anyone wants to kind of come on live and ask questions or send me their questions beforehand anonymously, I'm happy to do it that way as well. But thank you. Oh, thank you. I've realised Guru Sahib always gives when we don't even feel deserving. That's so beautiful. That's so, so true. And when I look back on my journey, what I've realised is that the Creator has always given me what I've needed, even when I didn't realise it. So what I needed for my growth was certain people to fall away. What I needed for my growth was the discomfort, the conflict, the drama, the challenges, the internal challenges, the friction from other relationships. I needed all of that to give me the resilience and the endurance and the respect. So all of that has a lesson in it. So I can see there's so many beautiful comments, and I hope that's, for those of you who are really feeling in this place, you can see there's so much comments and so much support that you're not alone. We are all in it, in the arena together, holding each other's hands. If I've said anything that's caused offence, if I have said anything that's wrong, please forgive me. That my intention is always to be of service and to offer support and love and guidance. And I hope to see you next time. So I'm going to sign off, and I hope this has given you whatever message you have come here for today. I hope I was able to deliver that for you. Thank you.